Hi there, welcome back to The Spark is Love. My name is Casey Pacheco, and today we're going to talk all about spirituality. Now, you may look at me and say, why is your head covered, Casey? Well, this is just out of respect for certain cultures and religions who, whenever a woman speaks about spirituality or higher power, it's respectful to have your head covered. So let's just get that disclaimer out there. We're going to have a juicy conversation. So we're going to talk about spirituality from a holistic standpoint and how that fits into being healthy. Now, I'm going to take a secular view, so I ain't here to preach to you. I'm here to explain how vital spirituality is in your holistic whole well being. Okay, so stay tuned. So, in talking about spirituality, there are four words I really want to highlight, and you may think they have nothing to do with spirituality. But the four words, and I wrote it down so I don't forget, is consciousness, recreation, integrity, and truth. So, we're going to talk about these four words. So, let's first start off with, is religion and spirituality the same thing? Let me know your comments. I want to know what you have to say. Many people have this, not a debate, but just this question, and so many people have different perspectives. I'm sharing with you my perspective and what I've learned so far. So in my journey, I realized that spirituality and religion, they're two different things. So usually spirituality is innate to every human being. They have some sort of longing or connection with a higher power, or force. Um, many people use different words, and maybe I'll address that first. I was raised in a very religious background. So I wouldn't understand why people would use words like universe and higher power and force. And I say, oh, aren't you just talking about God? But I came to find out that you could say there are people saying the same word and they have such a different meaning behind the words that they use. And then there are people who use different words with different um, adjectives to describe their connection, but they're actually saying the same thing. So I've learned to respect all the words that people say and not to just think about what I think the label is, but really give people an opportunity to explain their beliefs and their processes. So, with that being said, I will say God and higher power. You could take from it whatever you want. I just use what I know. So no disrespect to anyone out there. So when it comes to religion, usually religion starts where you have a group of like-minded spiritual people going through the same process, and they come together and they worship together. Spirituality, though, like we talked about, is innate. So every person, whether they know it or not, they have the ability to cultivate spirituality. What is spirituality? Well, if you look at the root word, you get spirit. So it's a connection to something that is non physical or non fleshly, but of a different nature. Some people even say that spirituality is one of the highest science. And I think I will agree with them. And we'll talk about it. Well, when we get into talking about um, religion and spirituality is a more of an individual process. So you can belong to a religion and you may realize that there are within the religion, there's a vast array or scope of spirituality within the people within the religion, because spirituality is an individual process, whereas religion, usually everyone within the religion conform to a standardized or the same beliefs. So because there's such a vast array of religions, I'm not here to talk about religions. That really does not fit into the holistic model, but spirituality does. So I'm here to talk about spirituality. So whether you're religious or not, this conversation could be of benefit to you. So when we talk about spirituality, it usually involves the word consciousness or awareness. So, conscious is a person who is conscious is aware, meaning that their senses are in tune with reality. So, let me break this down. Consciousness, right? When you are conscious, you are alive. In the hospital, we know that you could be unconscious and still alive, but you're not really, they call it like clinically dead, because you are technically alive, meaning your life processes are working, but you are unaware of what is going on outside. When I say unaware, not meaning that you have no clue, but you cannot be an active participant in life. So you are alive, but you do not have life in you. Okay. So usually if you are you could be unconscious and alive, but if you were dead, you are unconscious, right? So many different thoughts, many different views, but we're going to just talk about this consciousness being awareness. So when it comes to spirituality, the spiritual process is supposed to heighten our consciousness or heighten our awareness of our life around us. Now, how does this happen? Well, many different ways, right? But when you think about the word conscious, you see the base word conscience. So the process is really to evoke your conscience. So every time your conscience, which is the little indicator in your head, says you really shouldn't be doing this, you know you should stop, you know you shouldn't do this, and you ignore it, then when you ignore your conscience, you become less conscious. When your conscience goes off and says, do the right thing, you know what the right thing to do is in this situation. Nobody told you, within yourself, you know what the right thing is, and you ignore it. Your consciousness goes down. When your conscience says, that's not right, and you immediately listen to it, your consciousness heightens. You become more aware. This is not new. This is not, I'm not sharing with you some breakthrough that I had. It's just, it's normal. It happens in the physical. If I have a patient and they have had injury on a certain part of their body, right? And you have injury after injury after injury, eventually the feeling goes away. You can't feel it, right? In our hands, if you start gardening, I just started gardening and I have a callus. The more you use something, the more you use it, right? And the tool rubs up against. Eventually, your hands, they don't hurt anymore and they become calcified. Well, the same thing happens in our thinking, thought process. So the more we respond to our conscience, the more alert, aware, and conscious we become. The more we ignore the conscience, the more we become less aware and less conscious. So the religious process, it really is in place to make us responsive to the conscience. But some places, some people, they have no religion, but they train their conscience, so they actually respond to it. So that's talking about conscience right there. Now, let's let's talk about an example of why this is really important. So you have a child, right? And maybe 1 or 2 year old. I have a 1 year old, and at that time, A baby's cognitive, they're just becoming fully aware of the world, the environment, their surroundings. So I have to give my baby a lot of laws. Don't do this. No, stop. Don't go there. A lot of laws, lot of laws. Very, very little rationale. Now I try to rationalize with him, but I do understand that cognitively he is not there to understand rationalization. But I do it to get in the habit of it because when he turns about 12, yes, I have the laws, do this, don't do this. But then I throw in some rationalization, I throw in some principles, right? And see how he's going to react to it. So as his cognition or understanding grows, I wouldn't have to say, stop, don't walk out the door, right? Don't run into the street. Now I could start telling him the cars are coming. There's a lot of traffic, right? I can give him principles where he can use his mind and brain and say, because she said this is what's happening. Because of this is happening. So those principles, right? Life principles helps him to develop rational thought and rational thinking because my goal as a parent is that I want him to become free. Well, humanity is on the same line where humanity wants to be free. Eventually, when my son is about 25, I no longer will have to say, you should do this, you shouldn't do this. No, I should be able to just tell him what is and maybe rationalize and reason out thoughts with him, and then he can make a decision for himself based on the principles or facts that I share with him. So that's to say, when you're growing on your spiritual path, you may start off where you need a lot of rules. You may not have grown up or been raised around where discipline was enforced. So as you start on your spiritual path, you may realize you need a lot of rules so that you can develop self-discipline. And self discipline is important because as you learn the principles, you become more responsible for yourself. So eventually, you would not need someone to say, you should do this or you should do that. You would know what to do and actually do it. And the difference with that, between knowing and doing, is self discipline. So many of the religions, they really, really promote self-discipline, and some of them may even require strict laws to help you adjust to discipline. But this is, remember, religion is supposed to be with purpose. Spirituality gives you meaning to life. So the purpose of the discipline, right, is so that you could have a real meaning and you could be truly free, right? Okay, so that's with consciousness. So in your spiritual process, you should find yourself awakening, becoming more aware. And this leads to the other word I talked about, recreation. Now, everybody says, yes, you spend 3 hours in church and it's took all of your day and you feel like it was drudgery and toil and you don't understand why it has to be so long and it's irritating, and some people, they just never like that, right? But they spend 3 hours at the party, the concert, the basketball game, and they can do it forever, right? Now, it's easy to become judgmental and say, well, that's not right. You need to give God more time than you give your entertainment. Okay, so I'm here to share some light into the spiritual process. So, the spiritual process is a process of recreation. If you look at the word recreation, you find at the base recreate. To recreate, right, is where the word recreation comes from. And recreate means to do that, recreate. create, make life, new life, right? So, as a human, we have life, we were born, right? But as we grow into an adult, we get to choose, right? Or recreate the life form that we are to whatever we want to be, right? So, that process of recreating yourself is supposed to be a refreshing process. That's why people like to have fun. I had a coworker, she said, I wish I could play every day, right? We were meant to play every day. Studies show that children learn the best, people learn the best through play. So we were meant to play, we were meant to recreate. So our spiritual process should be one of recreation. Now, hold up, recreation. You are recreating yourself, recreating your life. Now, some people think recreation is equal to fun. And that is not true. You could you could engage in recreation and the next day, how do you feel? Tired, stressed out, irritated, don't get along, spent way too much money, right? You didn't recreate anything. You just had fun. Recreation breathes life into you. You should feel alive. You should feel rested. You should feel energized. This is when you do recreation correctly, this is where your purpose and your creativity and your life juices, your passion, your energy, everything comes out. So when you are going through your spiritual process, if you are doing it correctly, you should be recreating your life to live your purpose, to live the fullest life possible for you. Now, some people say, well, my spiritual process feels like prison. It is the last thing but any kind of recreation. I feel negative. I feel weighed down. I feel like it's drudgery, like bothersome, cumbersome. You may need to revisit your spiritual process because recreation has two types. Because as humans, we could create. We could create for ourselves and we could create for other people. So we want to make sure that our spiritual process, right, whatever we're involved in, is not recreating an atmosphere to suit another person. We should be recreating our atmosphere to live with humanity. When we're finished recreating our life, we should be able to get along with people better. We should be able to handle difficult situations. We should be able to do things that we could not have done before because now we have the energy, now we have the focus, the clarity, the communication to really live life the way we were purposed to live. However, if you realize that your recreation or your spiritual process is leaving you where you are very distant from people. It's very hard for people to be around you. You're a bit of a nuisance. Maybe they might even see you as a fanatic. Very, very intolerable to be around. Very, very hard to be positive and a building and when someone leaves your presence, they feel as though the energy has been sapped out of them. And sometimes it's hard for you to know or get that feedback, but even within yourself, you can know where your energies are because if you're going through the recreation process correctly, you shouldn't need to ask permission to do the right thing. You shouldn't have to wait for someone to tell you what to do. You would know what to do. You would have the energy to do what you need to do. And you would love living life. You would love it. You would love it. Absolutely love it. You don't need any bribing or bullying to do the right thing. It will be enjoyable. Okay, so going into after, so we talked about being aware, right? Then we talked about recreation or recreation. Let's talk a little bit about integrity because Integrity, a lot of people feel as though if they start on a spiritual journey, they have to be like perfect or pious, like holier than thou, like, oh, I can't say anything or I can do anything wrong. Like, that is so not right. So piousness has nothing to do with integrity. Integrity is actually very, very much the goal of your spiritual process. When I say the goal, like integrity is what you should be. You want your senses, you want your life to be aware. You want to be aware so that you can keep your integrity. And when I use the word integrity, I mean holding fast to what you know to be the truth, what you know to be right and good and righteous, right? So, morals, you have morals, and everybody, they have different background and different thoughts on what morals are. But every human being, within every human being, there's an innate understanding of right from wrong. So the more your consciousness or your awareness grows, the more you are aware of what is right and what is wrong. When you let your consciousness slip and you become unaware, your integrity, you could become emboldened in a wrong course. You could become strong feeling towards something that you're just so unaware of. And your reasonings go away. So it's just black or white, like there is no in between and there is no reasoning with you. But when you have integrity, then the right type of integrity, then your consciousness is aware and you can know and take full responsibility for what is right and all the consequences that come with it, and know what is wrong and all the consequences that come with it. Right? So, holding to your integrity, you may think everybody may say, no, 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 because people like to follow after the crowd, but a person who holds their integrity, they hold it with full awareness that what they're doing is the right thing. And that doesn't come from a one-time decision. That comes from a course of listening to the conscience, right? And becoming more aware. Listening to the conscience and becoming more aware to the point that they know that every time they do not listen to their conscience, they suffer. So they are going to hold a course, not because they want to be holier than thou, but because they know they have evidence or they have faith that it is the right thing to do. Okay? So that's integrity. Now, at the base of the word integrity, you get the word integer or whole. So remember, I said that integrity is the goal of your spiritual process. It's actually the goal of holistic living because the goal is not to be perfect, right? It's not to, we're not going to be perfect to the standards that people think of perfection, but we're going to be whole. We're going to be whole in knowing that we stuck to what was right. And when you are on a course of integrity and when you're on a course to be a person of integrity, you know that being a person of integrity is not always applauded, and it's actually you have a hard time. You have a hard time. Like Mahatma Gandhi, he had a hard time. Or those people who helped the Jews in Nazi Germany because their conscience couldn't allow them to go along with the crowd, but they faced a really hard time. Um, what they did in response to the hard time they faced really showed if they were a person of integrity or they were just trying to be, heroic. So um, being whole person or a person of integrity, right, leads us to that word I talked about, truth. Now, there are many people who want to know what the truth is. Most of us do not appreciate being lied to. But as you embark on your spiritual process or your spiritual journey, you will realize that truth, while there is truth and that we should stand for truth, you will realize that um, there are many truths that we are aware of on a daily basis, and we try our best to live up to it. We don't always adhere to every truth. We don't always do what we know we should. This plays into a person on a spiritual process really being at peace. Some people, they get very easily triggered by being lied to, by deception. Um, and something I always encourage just to keep your peace is when you are lied to, or when you find out something was done that was incorrect or a deviance from what is true. Um, just a way to regain your composure and just bring down your righteousness a little bit is to take a moment and look in your life and see on your path to holistic living how many truths you ignore in a day. We know we need to move. We know we need to eat right. We know we need to speak right, right? But in one day, how many truths do we ignore? So, on this spiritual path, it's not about comparing your truth and my truth. It's not even about, and I'm not saying, I'm not endorsing lying, and I'm not saying that we should not look for truth, speak truth, and live by truth. Please don't get me wrong. We should. We shouldn't deal with lies. But when you face lies, just as you grow on your spiritual path, you would recognize that within ourselves, there are certain truths we have not yet acknowledged. And the more you go within and really see, well, what truth am I not acknowledging? Is it the way I take care of myself? Is it the way I talk to my loved ones? Is it the way I do my business dealings? Like, what truths do I know within myself I am not acknowledging? And doing this is going to help you because sometimes we're looking for truth and we want other people to tell us the truth. And we want to hold people accountable to truth. But we have not even held ourselves accountable to the truths that we know. And I'm not saying that that means that people can get away with lying to you or that you shouldn't search for truth. But to whom much is given, much is expected. So this path, this journey to freedom, liberation, right? It's a path that requires a level of honesty and authenticity that most of the population, most of us, we are we don't like to be vulnerable. We like to blame and we like to hold other people responsible. And you can do it. We can do it. We really can. We have that freedom. But that leads us to a vicious cycle of enslavement. So, in being free, right, there are four things we talked about, and it's the path of spirituality. That is becoming conscious by listening to your conscience when it speaks to you, right? We talked about recreation, where our spiritual process, um, whatever it is, should leave us feeling refreshed, rejuvenated, and bring life into us, that we're excited and we have energy to carry out our life's purpose. It should also leave us being people of integrity, where we no longer need a whole bunch of laws to know right from wrong, but we can discern principles, we could discern, we can perceive because we are aware, and we could hold the truths that we already know. And it can lead us also be gracious, have some grace in our life, and realize that other people are on their spiritual path too. And when they don't when they don't do what they're supposed to do, we are still responsible for what we're supposed to do. And this is a process that a lot of people they're waking up to. A lot of people are becoming more aware of their spiritual journey. And as a holistic nurse, I'm here to support you on that journey. I'm here to let you know that you are not alone, that you are enough, and that you can do it. And, sometimes we feel as though, maybe we come from a really religious background where, some people they misguidedly shamed us um, into doing the right thing. And we may feel residual effects like we're not good enough, or we can't do this, or we're not going to ever be pleasing to a higher source, or just pleasing to be alive on this planet. But I'm here to let you know that you can do it. You have everything that you need to become a spiritual person. It's just those small things that we don't pay attention to. Those small things are the things that matter the most in life. So it's not overwhelming, and usually the changes are not rocket blowing, mind changing, go to space. Usually it might be that little thing like maybe greeting the people living with you. Maybe it might be doing something, they say be the bigger person. Maybe it might be holding your tongue, not cussing that person out. Maybe it might be trying to say something kind or something positive, or maybe it might just mean walking away from a unpleasant situation. I don't know what it looks like for you, but I sure could tell you that it's not the big things that people think they need to pursue. It's usually the little things that we ignore, are the little things that make a big difference on our spiritual process. So try it. It's not going to hurt you. It might require a little self control and self discipline, but I will tell you to have your energy, to have your creativity, to have your love for life and love for people flowing very, very deep and very, very energetic and happy and just happy to be alive no matter what. It's like the best feeling ever to wake up and whatever you're doing, whether it is you're with your family or you're working or whatever you're doing in life, for it to feel like you are on vacation or recreating, that is like the best feeling. And that's how we were designed. We were designed to be free and to have that feeling of freedom. But sometimes we get in our own way, and sometimes we let the voice of others get in our own way. So I'm here as your holistic nurse, letting you know that I support your spiritual process, and I really hope that you have abundant peace, not just happiness, but abundant peace and joy within your life as you listen to your conscience and you do the right thing no matter what. Thank you for joining. Next time, we're going to talk about financial health because it is very important to living a holistically healthy life. This is your nurse, Casey, and I'm signing out. Thank you.